What's going on, guys? Skit Gaming here, and today we've come full circle. Why choose between a Skit review and a Blood and Iron video when you can have both, right? It still feels a bit strange talking about this game again, but I'm sure I'll wear the name out by the end of the script. In any case, let's dive into the meat and potatoes of today's soup. I mean review. As you know, we're all students of history here in the Skit Army. The stage for Blood and Iron is set long ago, during a little known and often overlooked period in history called the Napoleonic Wars. Don't feel bad if you've never heard of them, cause neither has anybody else. To sum the whole thing up, there's this French guy named Napoleon Bonaparte, who fancies himself as some kind of strategic genius. Now, his main gripe with the rest of Europe is that they made fun of him for being short, which he was. I don't want to hear about how, oh, well actually he was average height for the time, because that's no excuse. My man's G-dub would have been slamming hoops over Napoleon's head at 6'2". If he didn't want to be remembered as short, he shouldn't have gone out of his way to surround himself with tall people. Anyway, Napoleon decides that the best way to stop the short jokes is to make France the dominant power in Europe. He does pretty good at this until he ends up forgetting the #1 rule when fighting Russia. Don't do it in the wintertime. Oops! In the end, it took 7, count 'em, 7 coalitions to keep him down. He then goes into exile on the island of St. Helena, I don't care.
St. Helena.
Where he's replaced by a body double and proceeds to live out the rest of his life in the ancient utopia underneath Antarctica. Now that we've taken care of the history, it's time to talk about the game itself. Blood and Iron is structured in a very simple way. 2 teams spawn on opposite sides of a map and do battle until one of them is entirely wiped out. There are 25 maps to play in and 10 countries to play as. The maps are voted on every few rounds, and the nations are determined based on who fought there historically. Players can use a variety of different classes depending on which map is active, including infantry, skirmishers, cavalry, and artillery. Each class is split into historically accurate regiments, complete with rankers, sappers, officers, musicians, and color bearers. Each unit has its own uniform, which, if I'm honest, holds the most influence in what I choose to play as. Remember how I ranked the uniforms from Lionheart's Crusade? I'm not doing that again. The views on that video are abysmal. But I will give a quick shout out to some of my favorites here. Now that we've gotten the basics out of the way, let's discuss the spirit of Blood and Iron. The people who do end up talking in chat either try to strategize and give callouts, or saying the most nonsensical gibberish in an attempt to distract the enemy. The core gameplay is pretty bare bones, and when you've got nothing better to do than walk around and shoot at people, some wacky shenanigans are sure to ensue. You could witness a soup salesman doing business with the enemy while a life or death struggle happens in the background. You could morph your team into a writhing mass of color bearers that shred everything in their path, or combine an infantryman and a hussar to create a mobile gun platform. The possibilities are endless. As far as tactics go, we have no tactics. Line battles only occur when 2 organized groups agree to have them, and organized is a dirty word when it comes to Blood and Iron.
Make ready, present, file, reload.
It's generally every man for himself, and every man has a different idea on how to win the battle. Of course, there are small-scale strategies that'll form every once in a while. Fortify spawn, defend the artillery, occupy the church. These are all tried and true classics. Sometimes it's better for your team to have a lot of riflemen to give you the advantage in long-range engagements, or maybe you want line infantry to form defensive squares and fend off enemy cavalry. No 2 rounds are identical, which provides a lot of replayability that many games today lack. Some players prefer to be skirmishers in the thick of the fighting. Others might enjoy carving swaths of destruction with cannons, and others still embrace the glory of riding into the enemy lines on a fast horse armed with nothing but a saber. Alright, I promise to stop harping on the gameplay possibilities for now. We're happy to announce that Glass has been successfully located and returned to his rightful home. Unfortunately, he's still being a bit uncooperative, so you'll have to make do with this title card for now. First up, the positive things. The private servers in this game are very easy to use and provide a lot of control to the owner, such as choosing the maps and teams and toggling respawns on and off. These features add a wealth of possibilities to the game, like the custom game modes we've toyed with already here on the channel. Blood and Iron has a very simple premise. There's no advanced movement and all the tools are pretty easy to use. I don't have a problem with advanced mechanics, but generally the less moving parts you have, the harder it is to break things. Sappers have a lot of freedom in where they choose to build fortifications. This can allow for climbing onto roofs and trees that were otherwise inaccessible, as well as forming all manner of creative defensive structures. I will say that some of the structures are kinda useless. No one unironically builds fences or small dirt mounds. A lot of players don't know this, but there's a teeny tiny little button in the corner of the screen that lets you listen to music while you play. Of course, you could always just have YouTube in the background, but it's still a neat addition and the music is period relevant. Now for the not so great features. They changed the particle effects a while ago, so now you can't see through the smoke after you shoot. I know this is probably more realistic, but I still want to be able to tell when my shots land. I wouldn't be opposed to the addition of a damage log or some sort of hit marker. Since hats and tools count as separate objects from the player, bullets that hit them will stop instead of transferring the damage. This allows people to block musket balls with their hats by looking down, or with their rifles if they happen to get in the way. And when it takes 16 seconds to reload your gun, it doesn't feel good to have your shot nullified by something that trivial. The player and item models do get a bit quirky at night. I personally guarantee that you will witness or experience at least one broken model per game. Whether that be a ramrod that gets stuck in a barrel, an arm that won't stop jutting out to the side, or an animation that just refuses to finish. This game is infested with hackers. I'm talking packed. Don't even try to call Orkin, because this is beyond their ability to fix. Hackers who move while aiming, hackers who have automatic weapons, hackers who teleport. They're living in the walls. It's gotten a bit better now that we can vote them out, but still, the sheer amount of them is annoying. The melee system is pretty whack. Let me explain it to you. You have up to 4 attack directions, but those don't really matter because you also have a universal block. The block is almost entirely useless though because the enemy can just swing twice faster than you can block and then attack. In addition to this, server lag will seemingly always benefit the enemy when it comes to melee range, so have fun with that. Remember when I said earlier that sappers get a lot of freedom regarding building? That can get pretty annoying when they stuff a building full of barricades to try and draw the round out as long as possible. Major updates are so rare, you'd think that the dev team works for Mojang. The last update that added a significant amount of content happened last September, so more than 8 months have passed and all they have to show for it is improved ragdoll physics, which I do appreciate. In conclusion, Blood and Iron is a fun game. Is it perfect?
Then no.
But that doesn't make it any less fun to play, and I'm saying this in the most impartial way possible. I know the effect that this game has had on my channel. I've made a guide or tutorial for every class in existence. If I'd never started YouTube and still found this game, I would enjoy it all the same. It is my honor to bestow upon Blood and Iron a spectacular 9 out of 10. Before I go, I want to give a couple shoutouts and then talk about the state of the channel. First off, shout out to Rifleman, JC Jupiter, and Yuzdrez for recognizing me while recording. Also, Messy300 from HRE, and those 2 guys who I said I would shout out if they beat me in a duel but whose names I lost. If that sounds like you, let me know in the comments. Finally, my doppelganger Pilot482, who came out of nowhere rocking my fit. I'm sorry for the recent lack of uploads. I had to take a break to focus on school and get my grades up. And you'd think I'd have more free time during the summer, but it seems like the opposite is true. In any case, I'm trying to get back into the old upload schedule of whenever it's convenient, probably every week or so. Anyway, that's all I've got to say for now. Thanks for watching the video, I love you guys, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.